And we are live. Welcome again to Faces of Stone.
Here they are, Albert. Faces of Stone.
Can we get that again? Can we get that one more time?
There they are, Albert. Faces of Stone.
Excellent. So we have just finished watching. Oh, Amanda, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Amanda. I have no sound effects to play.
Oh, I gotta close the YouTube window. All right. I'm Noah, and when I change my ATM code, I am making pin tweaks.
That's very clever. Pin tweaks.
All right, well, now that we've gotten over that.
Yes. So, okay, that's a lot to process. We saw quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, no sooner does the episode begin than Richard Horne kills a lady.
Right, yep. I mean, I guess we don't actually see him kill her. She's still breathing the last time we see her, but it looks like he set it up to burn her trailer down, and she's going to die.
And Miss Coleman knows everything about him and has already sent a letter to the sheriff because she knew this was coming somehow.
Right.
So our favorite character, Richard Horne, immediately calls our second favorite character, Chad.
You're right. They're both such sweethearts.
Love those guys.
I mean, they really just, harken back to that kind of down-hominess that was a hallmark of the original Twin Peaks. These guys are just so, it's almost saccharine.
Yeah. Then after that, we get to a beautiful musical number from Carl Rodd.
It was really adorable. I loved it.
Come and sit by my side if you love me.
Yeah.
By birthday boy, recent birthday boy, Harry Dean Stanton.
I think that was yesterday. It was a couple of days ago. He's 91?
91.
91. Right. So earlier in the series, when Carl Rodd said that he'd been smoking for 75 years every day, that's not that hard to believe at all.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. And then the cup mug comes flying through the window.
Right.
And our other favorite guy.
Of the cup that was given to Dougie in the police office.
Yes.
But yeah, but another sweetheart of a guy, by the way.
And she's just following in her mother's footsteps and letting a guy beat the shit out. Well, he hasn't yet, it seems. Seems like he hasn't hit her yet.
But
what a fucking nightmare. Well, that's what he said. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
The first time we saw him, I just thought he was kind of wormy and pathetic. And now it seems that he's just an utter sleazeball.
Well, she was like, "Did you do all that today?" And he was like, "Yeah." And so you realized he really had a problem and was
right.
And he's a victim of this bad drug that's going around Twin Peaks that we heard Richard Horne talking about with Balthazar Getty's character, Red. And so this is the result of this sparkle, this designer drug that's going around. And I think that's why he has such a booger problem.
Do we assume that this drug causes underarm rash too? Is this?
Oh my goodness! It's a very attractive drug.
This foreign drug is just.
This drug, you're going to see side effects in your armpits and nostrils.
So can we talk about Candy for a second?
I love Candy. I laughed so hard at her. She's so upset when she does it. She just, it's just so beautiful. She's so upset.
I loved her little silent talk to Anthony Sinclair through the cameras.
Yeah. But she was talking about the weather, apparently.
Apparently.
And,
yeah.
It's hard to tell with things like that at this point. Like if we're being told something's wrong with Candy, and maybe this is another layer of mystery, and what was she really saying to Tom Sizemore down there? Or maybe it's just a little bit of Lynchian color.
Right. Yes.
I think it's just a little Lynchian color.
That's my guess too. But I don't know. Candy might have something to hide. She's taken more of a center stage than I would have anticipated based on her introduction.
The actress who plays Candy is somebody, right? I should know this before I talk to the world. I think she's somebody who people know and care about. Not the character, the actress.
When I saw her the first time, I was absolutely intrigued and could not take my eyes off her, and remember thinking, well, that's why they put her in the middle, because she's just so damn good. And silent, but she was doing that thing with her hand, you know.
Yeah. And, you know, little did we know she'd go fly hunting soon.
And when it got close to her, she would get so upset. I love her.
Yes.
I want one.
She was fantastic. So Dougie goes to see the doctor.
Then Dougie goes to see the doctor.
Right. Who I recognize, I believe he was from some incarnation of Star Trek. I forget.
Oh.
He's Neelix or something. Anyway, but Janie becomes very enamored with Dougie.
Yeah, Janie stares at Kyle MacLachlan for a little while.
She's really enjoying the view.
And we all do.
We all do. Yes.
As is our bent.
Yes.
The bent of anyone that has two eyes and a beating human heart.
Yes. So she takes him home, this fine specimen of a man.
Yes.
And then starts seducing him, which is, she doesn't seem to have any issue with the fact that he's not reacting in any way. So again, it brings you back to what was Dougie like? You know, what was Dougie like? If like, and when was the last time they had sex?
Possibly when they created Sonny Jim, it would seem.
When they have their kind of seduction scene before they go to the bedroom, it was one of many scenes in the Dougie and Janie E dynamic that brought to mind Being There with Peter Sellers, which seems a very clear sort of prototype of the Dougie situation, and particularly the Shirley MacLaine, Peter Sellers love scenes in Being There, when she's all over him and he sits just kind of inert, but his indifference plays to her like silent strength, and winds up working, and she gets incredibly aroused by his stillness and silence, and it brought Being There to mind. And at the end of the sex scene, Dougie Coop obviously had a pretty good time, and seeing him with this broad, boyish smile, although in a way it was another tease, it was another sort of, we're going to sort of show you the real Dale Cooper here, because just to see him smiling like that, which I don't think we've seen at all in this series.
No. I mean, he's done little kind of facial expressions that are akin to smiles, but they didn't be genuine, and that was the real Cooper smile.
It reminds me of what you were saying last week about his happiness with Janie E and Sonny Jim. Is a life with them really what is best for Cooper at this point, and what his happy ending really is? Because they're there, and it's also. Am I an idiot? I never thought of it as Doug E and Sonny Jim and Janie E. They're all E, because I never thought of Sonny Jim, but it's just, you think he's Son E Jim?
Yeah.
Son, it's like the E family. This is the 5th time. It's that whoever you are that commented on YouTube, this is your theory, and it's in my brain now.
And by the way, since you said that, I notice we are getting live comments on YouTube, but when I look at the page, YouTube is like several seconds behind us, and I couldn't follow the comments and keep up with things, but we'll read them later. Yeah, it does seem like Dougie's family, Janie E and Sonny Jim, like their names sound kind of artificial. And as far as we know, there is some element of, there's something artificial about the whole Dougie life.
So then we see some more Dr. Amp.
Right.
Who I'm really happy to see this time. He's talking about sheep and
no wool for us. No wool for us.
Actually, before we get to Jacoby, which I was obviously ready for, there was an interesting moment. They got Ike. When the news of Ike the Spike's fall comes to the gangsters in the Vegas casino, he says, turns out our Mr. Jones is actually Mr. Jones.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the person, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Well, he's Doug.
He's Jones. It's not
anybody else.
And as predicted, the media coverage of the Ike the Spike attempt on Dougie Coop did wind up being what it did. I mean, we still don't have Gordon Cole and the FBI characters still don't know about Dougie Coop.
They haven't watched the news yet, apparently. That's
yeah. Nadine gets a line.
What was that?
Nadine gets a line looking at Jacoby's, webcast.
Right. And what did she say?
He is so beautiful.
He's so. But then also, did you notice that she has her own storefront now?
Yes.
And her store is called Run Silent Run Drapes, which is just fantastic. And there's a shit digging gold shovel hanging in the window. So she.
Oh, I didn't notice the shovel.
Yeah. So she's super into Dr. Amp.
The drapes were going back and forth. It revealed and
closing, and that's her. She's still doing the drapes. But no sign of Big Ed yet. We still have not seen where Big Ed is.
Yep.
So we get back to Jerry Horn very briefly.
Yeah. He says, I've been here before.
We've been here before.
Feels like that, doesn't it?
It does. I don't know if it was, we've talked about this, but someone has suggested, like, what will it be like after the show is over to just watch just all the Jerry Horn pieces together in one string?
Yeah. I think the Idle Thumbs guys talked about that, Chris and Jake.
Yeah, so that, I would like to see that.
Yes.
And I could probably say that about a lot of the different threads. It would be interesting to watch just those bits play out all together. Also, I just tried to keep in mind watching it this time that the stuff happening in Twin Peaks is several days ahead of everything else that's happening.
Is that? Do we know that for sure?
Well, I mean, because in the previous episode, when what's his name? The principal that. Why am I blanking on his name?
Hastings.
Hastings, yeah. When Hastings was identifying the major, he dated it, and he dated it the 20th or something, or the 19th.
We went back today and looked, and he writes the 29th. It took us a while. We had it on pause for a while. He does write
the 29th. So it is the same day then.
Yep. I said last week it was the 20th, and I said I was sure, and then I said no, of course I'm not sure, and so we went and checked today, and he writes it. It's like this loopy 9, so you see a 0, and then the other part of the 9 is off.
Okay.
He does write the 29th. I misled everyone. I apologize.
Okay, so that changes my thinking about stuff then. But okay, so we get a little bit more of Chad, and I just love hating Chad.
You do.
Chad. And you know, like, I think the reason that I love hating Chad so much is that unlike a lot of villains or unlikable characters that you get in most shows or films, Chad, we've all met Chad. Like, it's that we've dealt with that exact kind of assholery.
Yeah.
Just this kind of like passive aggressive, like, oh, all right, I'll move my stuff.
And if you're out there saying, what is he talking about? I've never met a Chad.
You are the Chad.
Take a look at yourself.
So here's a question for all the Chads out there. That wasn't clear to me. Did Lucy see that he intercepted a letter?
I don't
She
think
was
so.
suspicious that he was up to something, and so was the mailman.
The window.
Like
Yeah.
both Lucy and the mailman do not trust Chad. No one likes or trusts Chad. They all know he's a dickhead. So, but I don't know if Lucy saw.
I'm sorry. I just have to. There's a cat pooping right now, very close to me, and I'm trying to deal with it. So that's what's happening here. Continue.
Okay. Thanks for
In a
the
litter box. That's what he's emphasized. In a litter box.
So Richard Horn gets a text from Chad that is taken care of.
Right. Done, he says.
And then we go to this week's upsetting scene.
Yeah.
Which was really upsetting.
Really upsetting. And the thing I don't like about Twin Peaks, like, and the thing that kept me from getting into it for all those years, yes, the prolonged depiction of human cruelty and suffering. I'm not aesthetically saying it shouldn't be part of the story. It is part of the story, but those scenes are just torture to sit through. And Richard Horn, you know, I don't see him emerging as the hero of the story.
Don't predict that either. Yeah, he's just thoroughly horrible. He's worse than Dougie and Jeannie's Cars.
Yes.
He's just awful guy.
So he's there for money. Johnny is strapped to a chair with I think a Teddy Ruxpin.
Right.
What?
He's tied to the table. The chair's tied to the table. It's just all tied up. And it's for the first time I think we see what's her name actually react with empathy towards Johnny, right? I mean, usually
it is. That's right. Yeah, she's usually like, you can deal with Johnny.
She walked past him, just walked right past him. While she's presumably been the one who's tied him to the chair with this repetitive light bulb head thing.
Yeah, like a Teddy Ruxpin that's been modified to have like a crystal ball head, and it just repeatedly says, "Hello, Johnny, how are you today?" or some words to that effect.
Yeah.
Yes, that was, you know, of course, part of what made the scene so horrible was that kept happening.
Yes, and mellifluous strings playing throughout. I'm sure we can identify the music at some point.
That was terrible.
So,
awful.
So he got everything
It was.
out of the safe, he said.
Yeah, he takes like silver and money and jewelry and everything. Sylvia's on the floor, like watching and crying, and we're just thinking.
You know, I gotta say, there's a part of me that finds that scene really funny, though. I mean, the bear is talking the whole time. It gets to a point where it's so horrific that it's just funny. This is one of the things about Lynch that it's like there's always something kind of hilarious going on when something awful is happening.
Yes, it's unusual and artful, and yes, it's not a case of like mindless violence for a thrill. It's a lot more deeply upsetting than that.
I did get to the laughing point with that. So then we go to Mr. Todd.
Oh yes, Mr. Todd in Vegas. They got Ike.
Right. And so he's like, "All right, Anthony, you go."
Guys, yeah, Anthony's there. Like,
right.
Everybody knows each other in this town. What the fuck? Your coworker just happens to be the guy. Next guy is going to try to kill you.
Ta-da! So he tells him he's got to go convince the Mitchums, who I guess is Belushi and company.
Yeah.
Who I just fell in love with today, and I felt like I was watching the Coen brothers tonight when I was watching them. They were just, I loved them. The way they interacted with one another, I just thought, oh my God, I could watch this all night long.
Yeah, and I mean, we only got a little taste of them previously, and we got a nice long time with them this time.
Watching them so bewildered about Candy was nice. It's a nice thing that you don't usually get from Tufts, is like this bewilderment of like,
It's like, what are we gonna do? Like, and we can't just let her go because she has nowhere to go. We just got to deal with this bizarre behavior of hers. I love them.
So he goes and he delivers the message.
But first we have a wonderful scene that I don't think we even dared to hope for, even though it was, I guess, indicated a little bit in the previous episode. We cut to a romantic dinner between, or a romantic drink anyway, between Albert and Constance Talbot.
Right.
Who were flirting over the corpse in the previous episode.
Yeah.
And we all thought, hey, this could be a romantic comedy with those two.
Did you see how Albert had his hand out on the table? Like he was ready for the hand-holding part of the night. It was very sweet.
Yeah, and then Gordon and Tammy watching them and being like, oh, it's so cute. It was just sweet. It was very cute. Yeah, it's sweet.
And so it was a much needed, like, warm interlude in an episode that had a lot of
pretty grave stuff, yeah. When watching the last episode today, I felt like during a lot of the scenes when they focused on Albert, I felt like something was up with Albert. It just seemed like he knew something that he wasn't saying, or he was hoping something wouldn't be revealed, or there was. I almost felt like I didn't feel like Albert was totally being honest. And then I wonder if that relates to what happens to Albert later in this episode, or with Albert, but we'll get to that. I just wanted to throw
Albert's path is a strange and difficult one.
Indeed.
Indeed.
But no, I mean, that scene with Constance was just, it was adorable, and it was a perfect drop to put in the midst of all of this.
Yes.
Ickiness.
And then that's when we go back to Candy.
So when I just want to point out that when Candy was questioned as to what she was talking to him about the whole time, did you catch what she said?
Said the weather.
But the first, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, at first, what I heard, and I don't know if this is right, is virgin lair. We're like, it was something like that. We're virgin lair or something like that. And then she said, I think it's going to be hot and smoggy tomorrow. We are so lucky to have air conditioning in this casino.
I thought the first line was about the weather as well.
Yeah, maybe it was.
No, that virgin layer, she did say that.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, it was a weather report, but it also sounded like a kind of cosmological weather report. And she did say that thing about air conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have air conditioning. Air conditioned cooling or air conditioning.
And the whole time she was saying this, she was doing this.
Yes. Like, what?
Candy's great.
And it made them look so stupid because they had to be like, Candy, what were you saying? Candy, what were you saying? He's like, what were you saying? He's like, ask her. She was the one who was talking.
Yeah, those guys are just watching the security camera like.
But later when they have to ask her,
they're like, you fuck us once, shame on us. You fuck us twice, shame on you. You're dead.
You're dead. Dead.
Just,
I love them.
So, okay, so then we see Gordon's room, and he's drawing, right?
Yes.
So what he's drawing is a hand, and there's like this antlered animal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure exactly what kind of. At first, I thought it was a dog standing by a tree, but then when it zoomed in, I'm like, oh no, that's a.
It had many legs, right?
I didn't quite catch the number of legs, but I thought it looked maybe like a quadruped, but it didn't have any like head features to let me know what it was supposed to be.
Somewhat like an aardvark or an anteater, but with a lot of antlers.
Right, but there's a hand reaching towards it, and he drew like a wristband or something on the hand. So then he gets up to get the door.
Yes.
And we see Laura, and this specific shot was when Laura went to Donna's house after she found out that Leland was Bob, and needed to talk to Donna as her best friend.
Yes.
So, and then it's Albert. Then it's just Albert.
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing moment.
So does that mean something that Albert was the person that was standing there when Gordon saw this, or is it just that Gordon happened to have this vision and then Albert showed up?
Good question.
Cole never met Laura.
No.
No.
Yeah. I don't know if I think it has anything to do with Albert as much as I think it has to do with Cole and Laura. But I think I don't know, it's also connected. Like, Albert had to knock at the door at that time for him to see that vision. So yeah, it does have to do with Albert.
Well, when Albert comes in, what he has to tell Gordon is pretty terrible. It does seem like Diane is in league with evil Coop. I mean, I still desperately want that not to be true, and maybe there's some way
that not to be true as well.
But I wonder if somehow the substance of what Cole is about to learn is connected to a vision of Laura.
Yeah, I don't know.
Diane responds to Evil Coop's text about the lively conversation around the dinner table with, they have Hastings, right? And she says they have Hastings and they're going to get to the site.
Yeah,
right.
Get to the site.
So, I mean, theoretically, she's informing Mr. C about what the FBI is doing.
And she knows all this shit about the major and the zone.
Yeah.
She knows all that.
Right. I mean, maybe she's acting under threat of death the same way Mr. Todd is, and the same way a lot of these characters are obviously doing what they have to do to not get killed.
That initial call previously, she did look really nervous, like she was, kind of concerned that she wasn't able to get what she was expecting. And so it could seem like this is under duress, but that just might be wishful thinking just because I really like Diane and I want her to be on the side of good.
Yeah. And then Tammy Preston comes in and talks about the penthouse murders.
Right. And we have a picture of Mr. C there.
Yep. And which confirms that it's his.
So yeah, so he must be the anonymous billionaire that set that up. So theoretically, I'm guessing he did that to capture
Coop.
Spirit of Good Cooper so that he could trick him out of the lodge and do the Dougie swap?
Or shove him back in the lodge.
Or something, yeah. It seems like this is something he was trying to do so that he could evade the lodge.
Why didn't it work?
Because the guy was out of the room when Cooper came into the box.
But what if he had been there? What would he have done?
Maybe, I don't know.
How do we know it didn't work? I mean, maybe it did exactly what he wanted it to do, but the next part of the plan was then we just have to kill Cooper once he takes Dougie's place.
But was pecking the heads off those people part of the plan? Did that happen because we'd already seen Cooper, so now those people could die? We just needed to, keep this running as long as we didn't know where Cooper was, but now we know he's out. So let's kill this guy who's watching. And
did you say pecking the heads off of those people?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure I got that. That's
and the security guard as well, because nobody knows where he went either.
Yeah, just had their heads pecked right off.
They did. That's what that thing did. It pecked at their heads. Right.
So that thing, by the way, is, I assume, that the experimental model or the mother that was seen in episode 8, regurgitating all of these eggs and Bob. So
yes, and
the creator of Bob theoretically is the thing that pecked Sam and Tracy.
Yes, and doesn't its head kind of
Moving
look
up.
like the shape on the playing card and the shape on Major Briggs's little slip of paper that we saw in the previous episode?
Right.
Is that the head of the experiment or mother?
Maybe, I don't know. It could be. That shape is really weird and unsettling.
So now Ben Horn is on the phone with Sylvia. Sylvia's threatening him. He says, I'm not going to send you any more money. And she says, I'm calling my lawyer. You piece of shit, Ben Horn. She slams the phone down. And then he asks Beverly if she'll have dinner with him.
So, I mean, I think this is the first sign that Ben Horn isn't a totally nice guy.
Well,
We
the
know
first
that
sign this year.
So nice guy. I mean,
Well, but I mean, in the previous season, he was doing this whole turning over a new leaf, I want to be good thing, and he was eating carrots instead of,
yeah.
you know, instead of smoking cigars. He seems to think that way in this season. He is, at any turn, he could have done something really disgusting. He didn't. And this is the first time where I feel like, you know what, your, I guess, theoretical ex-wife has just been assaulted by her grandson and robbed. Maybe a little compassion, Ben.
It is kind of the only moment of weakness that we haven't seen a great deal of Ben Horn this season, but it's in a real moment of defeat and weakness when he says, would you like to have dinner with me, Beverly?
That's very good.
Well, we don't hear anything of her. We don't even know if she's there.
It's really interesting. What if she's
He's
not?
practicing. He's rehearsing. He's going to ask her out later.
Go into the other room and then do the, would you like to have dinner with me, Beverly?
But no, I mean, maybe she's gone home and like all this has happened and he said no and he said, I'm a good guy. I can't do this anymore. I don't know why. Then all this stuff has happened. And so he's just like, oh, goodness. But who knows?
Yeah.
I could do without seeing Ashley Judd anymore, actually, if you want to be totally honest about it. She's driving me crazy.
Oh, is she? What's you're not digging it?
I mean, there's just, I don't know. She just, her style of acting just doesn't fit in with anybody else's, and I don't see any quirkiness. I just see badness.
Okay.
It makes me nuts. It might just be kind of a personal bias thing, is what I'm realizing now that I'm talking about it.
Eh.
It's like a Katy Perry thing. I'm just not gonna like her no matter what she does.
Katy Perry hates Ashley Judd too.
So Margaret Lanterman shows up again.
Yes. We weren't sure if we were going to see any more of her.
And she delivers. I didn't get a chance to write it down, but I'm sure someone will transcribe it. But she has this great kind of small poem of just this beautiful little rambling ode that she gives.
It's beautiful. I didn't get much of it down either, but the first line was, she says, Hawk, electricity is humming.
And she says the circle is almost complete.
Except for one, very important, and then she says Laura is the one.
Laura is the one. And she also makes she goes back to this recurring idea, which appeals to me a lot, that puns and wordplay are also part of the cryptic meaning of all this. She talks about both of the Truman brothers being true men, those kind of things that shows you that there's not a syllable that's not worth examining in all of this. She also said something toward the end of her speech which moved me a lot, and I tried to get it down, but in my haste I only wrote the first letter of each word. So and I thought, oh, I'll remember that. And of course I don't at 10:30 remember it at all. But toward the end of that speech, she said something that was very profound, and its initials were WALTTDOT.
Watch and listen to the dream of time and space.
Thank you, Marc-Anthony. That's exactly what she said.
Yeah. It all comes out now flowing like a river. Laura is the one. I think that's... So...
It all comes out now flowing like a river.
Yeah. So, you know, I just in terms of her and what happens with her in this series, I've always loved that character and the way that she played her. And I hope that we get a nice closing with her. And I hope that Hawk goes and has the coffee and was it cookies that she said she made for him in the first episode?
It was pie.
It was pie? Okay. I hope that Hawk gets to have that.
I mean, what if Hawk manages to somehow emerge from Glastonbury Cove? Oh, never mind. That's not going to happen. Forget it.
Okay.
And when we were only a few episodes into this thing, I thought, oh, maybe the whole season's going to be a time loop. And at the end, Hawk and Cooper are going to show up at the Log Lady's place for pie and coffee, and that will be a lovely last scene. But Cooper's out of the Black Lodge. I doubt very much that's where we're heading now.
But speaking of Hawk and the Black Lodge, though, there is something I think hasn't been addressed. Is that in one scene he gets a call from Margaret while he's heading towards Glastonbury Grove, and she asks where he's walking that night, and he says something's supposed to be happening here tonight, and he finds the sycamore tree grove with the oil well thing there. And he sees the drapes, but then that's never mentioned again. We don't know what happened.
Yeah, we don't know if he enters the Black Lodge at that moment.
Anything? Was he just there to see if that happened? And why did he know something was supposed to be happening there at that time?
That was the conversation where she says, I'm too weak to join you tonight, but please stop by afterwards for pie and coffee. And I remember thinking, like, wow, the appearance of those drapes looks a lot better than it did 25 years ago.
Yes. Improved. So I guess one last thing about this episode, though, is that so we have the song at the Roadhouse, and her dress was clearly Red Room Floor.
Yeah, with the thing behind her. It was, and I have to say, I found the song absolutely lovely and would have loved it had it been half as long. But then it just kept going, and I was like, I can't sit through any more of this. But she was lovely. She was lovely to watch for a short
period. I really enjoyed it.
I thought it was one of the better musical performances that we've seen this season. And
throw this out there and sound like an asshole shit idiot. Was Moby the bassist?
He was a Moby-looking guy, but I didn't
hear that. I didn't hear it. You got bleeped out on my end.
Was Moby the bassist? And if he's not, it's just going to mean that to me, Amanda Sisk, every bald guy with like glasses and skinny is Moby, but it's not. Like, I think he was Moby.
It may have been Moby. I didn't see his name in the credits, but I wasn't looking for Moby.
His name wasn't in the credits.
Okay.
But I know it was.
Usually
Moby.
they list the end of the credits, though, so we could check. We could find out if it's Moby. So general impressions of this episode overall. What do you take away from it, and how do you feel about it?
Well, we've had just as much of a scramble to answer that question as we did last week. Nothing shuts this group up. Like, so what did you think?
Right.
It is funny trying to formulate an opinion of an individual episode, particularly if it's not an episode like number 8, which was its own distinct thing. And, I mean, this episode, like last week's episode, made me feel like a combination of anxiety and dread and great satisfaction and, intrigue. I thought, like, on a mechanical level, there are things that we're kind of still reiterating and revisiting that I would not mind a little forward motion on. Like the notion that all these various parties really want to kill Cooper/Ducky. Fine. We're developing that so laboriously, and I know that's the way it goes and that's the pacing, but, toward the end of some of these episodes, like when we're in a musical number, we're not sure, it's like it's 8:52, there could be more, but maybe it's not over. I start to think, is this over, David? And I look at the screen
He
like
actually
that.
says it out loud.
I say it out loud. Is this over, David? Can I go now? And you know, there is a touch of that feeling throughout some of the plotting when there's plotting. But I enjoyed the episode. I'm sure I'll watch it at least one more time. And you know, it was another example of an episode that moved the story ahead and that featured characters saying things to each other.
Characters saying things to each other is...
It felt to me like a Twin Peaks episode, an old school Twin Peaks episode, in a way, I guess. I'm just now thinking this. It's not thought through at all, but I think it did. It's like reminiscent in the disturbing physical violence way. And the Sylvia and how long that scene was, and just and like you said, it gets to a point where you're just like laughing because you're like, this thing keeps talking, and oh my god, this is awful, and Johnny's like got a helmet on, and I can't help but laugh at this, and I'm a horrible person because David Lynch does that to you. And then the log lady and Hawk and getting kind of cryptic code that you're not even sure if it's code or just, you know, someone speaking poetically, like you said. I liked it. I liked this episode. I hope Richard Horn doesn't get a chance to do a whole hell of a lot more. But
yeah,
it seems like he is going to get that chance. Have to have that guy there. I don't know. I don't know. And then we're going to have to bring back Balthazar Getty and that whole thing, too, at some point.
Right. Really only barely seen him. He was just in one early scene in the Roadhouse, just kind of standing around being admired by Shelley, which is...
Making F-me eyes at Shelley, yes.
Yeah. And then that other scene with Richard Horn.
Yes.
But I mean, I think I really agree with you that this felt like the most Twin Peaks episode we've had so far.
I think so.
You know, it seems like with each encroaching episode, with each new episode, we are closer to the feeling of the original Twin Peaks, and that I guess must be intentional. The closer Dougie gets, the closer we get to what we wanted.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, each episode we've been able to say there are these big things, like big events that we think are going to happen, or maybe on some level we know are going to happen. And every episode we think, is this going to be it? Like one of them is, of course, seeing Audrey. Is this where Audrey's finally going to enter the story? Not this time. Or is this the episode where we're finally going to see some kind of revelation on Dougie Coop's part that he is actually Dale Cooper? And when is his character going to sort of coalesce back into existence? And every episode, every episode tends to skirt the big things, but fill in lots of detail on the little things.
I forgot about something, very small thing. When there's talking about Diane and the text that she sent back, and Gordon says, "I could feel it. I could feel it when she hugged me."
Right.
If you look at the hug, he doesn't hug back. His hands he keeps them out like this, and he doesn't ever wrap them in around her. And at first you think it's like surprise, but then you would expect him to take her in because she's really suffering and crying. He never does. And I thought maybe this is just, you know, like, oh, Gordon doesn't know how to deal with holding a woman or touching a woman. Clearly not true. His hands are all over Tammy all the time. But he doesn't hug her back. That was very...
Now, if Diane is, you know, evil, or is at least doing the bidding of evil Coop, she put on a hell of a show for Gordon and Albert when they went to the prison. I mean, I feel like there is something more. It's not as simple as Diane is on the bad team here, because there's a lot more going on here. It may be something, as I was kind of sort of saying earlier, maybe she's just acting in self-preservation. And she's doing what she has to do to not have someone show up at her house and kill her tomorrow. But that, Diane is as good an actress as Laura Dern if she's evil, because that scene was so heartrending. When she tells Gordon, we're going to have a talk, you know.
Maybe she hadn't seen Coop or had any interaction with Coop since the last time they spoke, and maybe he kind of like set her free at that point and was like, yeah, I'm done with you. And so that when Gordon brings her back, she has to decide where her allegiance lies, and she's getting back involved with him now.
You guys want to talk predictions for a little while? Because I have branded our prediction segment.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Feces of Stone. It's time for feces.
Not to be confused, it's time for Feces of Stone.
No, that's coming. That's Richard Horn. Yes. Now, last week we made some predictions.
Okay, what were our predictions?
Marc-Anthony's prediction was that in this episode we were going to see a part of Philip Jeffries. Either we were going to see his finger pushing a button or some tease of the presence of Philip Jeffries.
Right.
I guess not.
Well, I mean, there were many fingers in this episode, Noah. Any one of those fingers may have belonged to Philip.
Oh.
You're so right.
Yeah. So until we get to the end, I don't want to hear any definitive statements on whether or not there was a Jeffries finger in episode 10.
I think there almost had to be.
Yeah. Statistically.
Sisk.
Yep.
You predicted, and all of these predictions were, of course, made with the understanding that all predictions are wrong here. You predicted that Donna, we were going to learn something about Donna this episode, what happened to her, where she wound up. We didn't, but that still remains a huge open question.
I don't think it's going to be addressed really now.
I've seen some theories that maybe it has something to do with whatever happened to James with his accident, but we do not know. And I predicted that in this episode, Cheryl Lee would appear in some form other than the homecoming picture. And somehow I was correct. Now, it was not new footage of Cheryl Lee, and a great deal of speculation has been based on, I guess, Cheryl Lee in interviews and tweets and things has suggested that she did a lot more work on this season than we've seen so far. So we've all been saying, like, oh, yeah, one way or another, Laura is going to be seen more. So it wasn't quite that, but it was, as you point out, Marc-Anthony, it was Firewalk with Me footage.
Mm-hmm.
But we did see Cheryl Lee, and it wasn't the homecoming photo. So
right.
I'm going to accept the grand prize this week.
You get the Golden Shovel Award for this week.
So what are our predictions for episode 11?
Okay, let's see here.
I predict that the fingerprints are going to come back, and it's going to set off bells at the FBI, and they're going to start looking for Dougie.
Okay. Marc-Anthony?
Man. All right, I'm just going to say we're going to see Audrey next episode.
She has to take her son in hand.
I mean, because at this point, that has to be Audrey's son, right?
Yeah.
It can't be Johnny's. It seems unlikely. It seems really unlikely that Richard would be Johnny's son. So if Sylvia is his grandmother, then Audrey is his mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems pretty solid.
Who I thought it was very odd that neither Ben or Sylvia mentioned when talking about, it wasn't Audrey's son did this. It was.
Yeah, nobody said her name.
Yeah.
Okay, so my prediction is that in episode 11, we're going to go to Jackrabbit's Palace. Marc-Anthony, I think you posted Jackrabbit's Palace. I guess it was about the bunny. I have not made that connection, but that's incredibly well reasoned. I'll bet that was planted there. That whole, is it about the bunny? It's not about the bunny. Is it about the bunny? And we were all like, come on! Well, that was really Jackrabbit's Palace. So it is about the bunny in some sense. That's great. So I predict that we're going to the scene where Bobby and Hawk and Truman go to Jackrabbit's Palace, whatever it might be, is going to happen in the next episode. And that once there, they will, in some sense, cross paths with Jerry Horn, who is wandering around in the woods. So to recap, Sisk says the fingerprints that were collected from Dougie's coffee cup in episode 9 are going to lead the FBI to Dougie Coop. And Macon says episode 11 is the one. We're going to see Audrey.
I'm going out on a limb. I don't think it's like terribly likely, but let's see.
No, none of us actually think these are the things that are going to happen. But,
no,
but next time on Theses of Stone, we're going to talk about it. And I think we're going to Jackrabbit's Palace, and that Jerry Horn, it will turn out to be part of the story, that Jerry Horn is walking around in the woods, and so will these other characters be. Hey, here's Bagley the cat, everybody. He just stopped by. Hey, Bagley. He never misses an installment of Theses of Stone.
So you think Jerry's foot is that like the arm? Is it?
No.
No, that was just a drug-induced hallucination.
I do, and I have to say, when we were watching it again today, I said to Noah, "This is like being in acting class again. This is so like an acting exercise someone would give you, and you'd spend 45 minutes to an hour doing it with a whole bunch of other, like 10 other people in a room. Like, your foot does not belong to you. It is not your foot. Go." And I thought this is really, I feel like I'm watching an acting exercise.
Yes, and in an acting class in college, the kid being asked to pretend he can't control his foot would probably go, "I'm high!"
I found myself in the most recent viewing transfixed with the llamas on his gloves. Little blue llamas on his gloves. It's cute.
Yeah, he's dressed in a very summer winter kind of ensemble. He's got like a winter hat and gloves with the fingers cut off, but yeah, Hawaiian shirt and shorts over leggings, I think, or something.
Like long underwear, yeah.
Yeah.
Always had a sense of style. That Jerry did have in the original series. Jerry had the best shirts.
Yes, they were those collars,
collars and buttons and stuff. I always wanted Jerry shirts.
And those. He had such pleated pants. Oh my God, his hair was like up, and he had the glasses. Oh my God, I used to want to like roller skate with boys dressed like that.
Peck your face off.
All right.
Okay, so have we reached the end of another Faces of Stone?
It feels like maybe we have. Is there anything else that we have to make sure we hit before we call it a night?
I don't think so. I think we've covered all the bases. I mean, we'll go over anything else we missed in chat. Amanda, you gotta.
Do we think we're ever gonna see that evidence of that woman or her letter again? But the letter to the sheriff.
Miriam?
Yeah.
Maybe if Lucy did see that he took something, maybe she will snuff him out, and
or maybe it'll fall out of his shirt in front of like one of the other guys.
Right.
I don't know. Or maybe Richard will get away with it because he always has.
I just can't wait to see Chad get his.
I hope we see that.
Personally, I just want it to be a shit-digging shovel to the face. I just want somebody to smack Chad.
I think it might be Richard that kills him. It usually is in relationships like this.
That'll be fine.
That's a reasonable prediction, actually.
Yeah.
Richard Horn will kill Chad.
Well, so until next, what's the name of next episode?
What is the name of the next episode?
I think it's called "There Is Fire Where You're Going," something like that. Check me on that. I think I looked it up, and I think it's something to that effect. There is fire where you're going.
Okay.
All right, kids.
Not a lady. All right. It's
Pleasure
been
as
great.
always, guys.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We will see you next week
On
on Pieces of Stone.
Faces of Stone.
Stone.